Man overboard from a pleasure cruiser. That's always trouble. As the closest member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, I had volunteered to take the call. The boat was the Sea Devil, lying about a half-mile offshore. There were no other craft in the vicinity.
I got your message from the Coast Guard. I'm back now, so I'm in the Auxiliary. How long's it been?
How long?
About 5 minutes.
More like 10.
I got into my gear as fast as possible. There's no time to waste in a moment like this. Despite the rough sea topside, it was fairly light below. Currents were so mild down here that there was hardly any movement at all. If a man had tumbled off that boat in the past few minutes, he should be somewhere in the area. I searched in widening circles from the boat's position, hoping to see the drifting man's shape before too much time had passed. No caves or big rock formations. Nothing for a body to catch on. If there was a drowned man drifting around in this area, he was long past any help from me. Interesting. Blair Hardy, all right. Full identification, a wallet full of money. This was supposed to be the clincher, but I didn't like it at all. It was too pat, too neat. The Sea Devil had a nice clean bottom. I guess that's why I looked at it. The hook was shiny, and in a place where no hook ought to be. Strange, it didn't add up to anything that I could understand.
Find him. I mean, is he alive?
Well, say something, man. It's a woman's husband.
I'm sorry. There's no trace of him.
He's dead. I know it. Blair's dead.
Do you mind giving me a little information about this, please?
Not at all. What would you like to know?
Well, how it happened?
Well, he was sitting right here, and I was standing where you are. And It happened just as you came out of the cabin, didn't it, Lola?
Yes, I'd been fighting with my sweet sister as usual. I came up for a breath of air. All of a sudden, Blair gave out a scream and grabbed his heart and fell into the water.
Well, doesn't your husband know how to swim?
Yes, he was a very good swimmer. But the heart attack, or whatever it was, must have been the reason why he never came up again. It all happened so suddenly. I don't believe it. I just don't believe that Blair's dead.
I don't see how he could have sunk out of sight when he hit the water like that. Unless he had a weight belt on. Was he gonna go skin diving?
That's his tank.
He had his clothes on, a sweatshirt and a pair of dungarees.
Huh?
He loved to dive. He loved it.
Maybe it was the only place he could find peace. Sorry, sister dear. Did I say something wrong?
You are impossible. I don't know why we ever brought you along.
I don't know why either.
What I don't understand is why didn't any of you go in after him? Why didn't you try to save him?
I can't swim.
I can't either. She went in.
By the time I got most of my clothes off and dove in, it was too late. There was no sign of him.
I don't see how a man can disappear like that. So suddenly.
That's what kept bugging us. He never came up once after he hit the water. We kept looking and looking. Nothing.
I better radio this information to the harbor police. You hold your anchorage here until they contact you, huh?
Police? But why? It was an accident.
Just routine, Gwen.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe that Blair's dead.
I got all the particulars from my Coast Guard report. The harbor police would do the same thing when they arrived. The threesome on the Sea Devil hadn't much to add to what I already knew. As I watched them, the strange widow, the bittersweet sister, and the seagoing sailor who hated water, I wondered what their reactions would be if I were to tell them how my report would read. That Blair Hardy might have drowned all right, but not in this bay, and not today.
You Mike Nelson, that right, sir?
Yeah, that's me. Who are you?
My name is George Emerson, Inland Insurance Company. I want some information.
Okay. About what?
You called the harbor police about a rescue attempt in Button Hook Bay.
Uh-huh.
A guy by the name of Blair Hardy, supposed to have drowned. 3 people on the boat, no satisfactory answers. Thorough search of the area, no body. That about it?
That's about it.
There's another line in your report that intrigued me, Nelson. It says that you seriously doubted that anybody could have drowned in that area at that hour without the body being found.
Yeah? Yeah, the visibility was just about perfect. No turbulence, no current, no rocks. Just a nice sandy bottom.
Well, what do you think happened? Do you have any hunch or any theory about this?
Yes, I have.
What is it?
Well, maybe the guy just took a powder. Maybe he wanted to escape from something or somebody. It's happened before, you know.
You don't think he's dead, then?
I don't know. I searched that area thoroughly. I didn't find any body.
I'm a claims adjuster, Nelson. We handle Blair Hardy's insurance. So what you say interests me greatly.
How much insurance did he carry?
$250,000.
Oh, boy, that's a lot of money, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of motive. So now you can see why I was interested in your report. I hope you can help me.
Ah.
I'd like to offer you a retainer to investigate the case.
Well, the harbor police is already working on it. Coast Guard will probably be involved in it. What can I turn up that they can't?
If this case is going to be solved, it's going to be solved underwater. You interested?
Well, I gotta pay for my boat, don't I? Sure.
I had little more to go on than the police at that. Being the first one in the area, then seeing the odd behavior of the Sea Devil trio. This lead was little more than a hunch, but I'd already discovered that the Sea Devil carried one set of scuba, the well-worn serviceable gear that I'd seen on the cruiser's deck. In the scuba shop, I discovered that Blair Hardy had purchased another full set the day before he disappeared. Even an amateur detective would call that a clue. The Sea Devil was still anchored offshore. If I could have known what was going on aboard the cruiser, I'd have been more concerned than ever.
It was Blair's plan. Why should you be upset?
You don't seem to understand what we're up against here.
It's practically all over. When they give me the money, I'll give it to Blair, and then he'll leave me alone.
All over? It's not even started yet. We're not even close to safe as long as Blair's alive.
Lee, don't say that.
You don't like to hear that, maybe, but that's how it's got to be.
You can't mean that. You're joking, aren't you, honey?
Yeah, I'm joking, all right. I mean every word of it.
They'll never find him, and the police are satisfied.
What about that insurance inspector? He'd make trouble for us if he could. We just don't have any choice, Gwen. They want a body, and I'm going to give them one.
Lee, there must be another way. I just can't stand the thought of it.
You said he bullies you, and you're afraid of him.
Well, yes, but this... No, Lee.
Look, I said it before, and I'll say it again. You just don't have any choice. Not if you want a life with me, you don't.
Hey, what's all the muttering about?
Will you quit eavesdropping on people before you get into trouble?
Eavesdropping? Well, I like that. What's the matter with that big hunk of nothing?
Oh, Lola, don't be typical. This is a bad time for all of us. I'm going in and lie down.
I made another swim out to the Sea Devil on a hunch, and I discovered something very interesting indeed. The little brass hook was gone. Now I had something concrete to take to George Emerson. It might have been an accident, but I kept thinking about the drowned man who wasn't drowned, and a little brass hook in the skeg. A nice place to hang a set of scuba gear if a man wanted to fall overboard and not come back.
Just got a call from the Coast Guard. The Sea Devil's heading back in this direction.
Did the Coast Guard say whether the Sea Devil had docked any place yet?
No, it hasn't. And the Coast Guard's had it under constant surveillance. I'm gonna get some help. I may need someone to skip my boat in case I have to go in the water.
I can handle that. I got a boat of my own.
Okay, Skipper. Let's get a heading on that Sea Devil.
For 2 days now, we've been waiting for the cruiser to return to these waters. This was it. I called my Coast Guard buddies, told them to stay clear so as not to scare them off. They were working their way in toward a bad reef section. Their course confirmed what I'd already guessed. They were headed for Castle Reef. I was sure now that Blair Hardy wasn't dead, only hiding out on the reef.
Isn't this dangerous? Full daylight?
It's the only time it's safe. That's why we chose Castle Reef. Surrounded by needle rocks and lava formations. You can't get a boat within 300 yards of here.
Lee, what am I going to tell Lola when she wakes up and finds out you're gone?
We just reached a point where we can't use her as a witness anymore.
Oh, no.
I broke off the contact chase and went around the back way. I knew this humpbacked piece of rock. I'd still have to swim a good half mile because there was no anchorage closer. At last, I was only moments away from meeting the man whose name had become familiar to me, though I'd never seen him. I didn't want to get too far ahead of Batten. I knew that I could outswim him, or figured I could. But that would leave Hardy at the man's mercy. I remembered a heavy concentration of seaweed near the outer edge of the reef. If I could lose myself in the heavy stuff and lure him in, I'd have a fighting chance. He was close enough to see me now, keep me in view. But if he saw me too well or got too close, well, that spear gun would settle the issue. It was like fighting in a tangle of man-eating vines. The stuff seemed almost alive, wrapping and holding. It tired us both so badly that neither one of us could fight effectively. After a while, we weren't fighting each other. We were fighting the terrifying clutch of the weed. But it got us. Both of us. And the harder we tried to get away, the tighter it choked. Eight little inches from sweet air. 8 inches from life. And the weed clutching like slimy ropes. My air was going. The surface, so close. Wait now. The idea came slowly while my chest began to burn. I could make a snorkel out of my air hose, push it to the surface and breathe. I cut the hose and got it above the water. That wasn't the hard part. There was a shard of rock hidden in the tangle below. I had to move enough to let it support me as the tide went out. The rock felt like home to me. 1 hour. That's how long I would have to hold on. With the tide going out, I'd be above water by then. But without a rock to stand on, it was already too late for Lee Batten.
Still in there. You killed him. You killed him! You killed him. You killed Lee!
What's happened to your sister?
She's all right. She's below, tied up.
My poor sister. There was never much love between us, that's for sure, but somehow I feel sorry for her. How's she gonna face it all? Jail, everything.
Oh, she should have thought of the consequences before.
Somehow I feel the sea's to blame for all this. I hate the sea. I hate it.
I'm sorry. Can't let you blame the sea. So far, she's been pretty good to me. Here. Hey, keep your chin up.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?
There had been reports of a leak of radioactive waste outside the harbor from a plant that used atomic isotopes. As a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, I had volunteered to check the area using a new type of underwater radiation detector. So far, there was no evidence of any contamination. My radiation detector had a dial which measured the amount of radioactivity and an audio device which translated it into clicks. This was to be my final dive on the assignment. The entire channel seemed well within the safe limits. I was heading for the surface when it happened. I hadn't noticed a sound mounting in the distance. I was in the direct path of a large freighter which was approaching overhead. I started to dive to a safe depth. The clicks in my detector were so rapid that I thought something had gone wrong with it. The needle had moved way up into the zone of extreme radioactivity. The reaction was coming from the freighter passing overhead. There was no question of it. I couldn't imagine what it could be carrying to give such a reading. But whatever it was a dangerously hot cargo. I'd have to tip off the Coast Guard immediately. The next morning, I was called in by Commander Greer of the Coast Guard. I figured that he wanted to tell me what they found in the port inspection.
Mike, I personally took charge of our routine inspection, which in this case wasn't routine. You know something? There wasn't a trace of radioactivity aboard that freighter.
Well, that's hard to believe.
Mike, we went over that ship with a fine-tooth comb. It's clean.
But that reading I got, it had to be caused by something extremely radioactive.
Then what happened to it? We're certain that it didn't come ashore and it's not on that ship.
Well, of course, you checked it from above. I was below when I got my reading. If that material were attached to her hull, yet somehow shielded from it, you wouldn't have been able to have detected it from above, would you?
That's true.
You mind if I check it from below again?
Okay, Mike. But be careful. If you're right, it means trouble.
I was careful. I slipped into the water as unobtrusively as possible. I descended to a depth of 40 feet. Then I started swimming toward the freighter. I moved in very cautiously. If my detector had been right, there was enough radioactivity there to cook me. The chain and the prow revealed only a normal background reading. Then I started checking the starboard side of the hull. I kept as close to the hull as possible so my bubbles wouldn't be noticed on the surface.
Corbett. Now there, sir. Those bubbles. Air bubbles from a diver. Where did you first notice them?
Amidship, sir?
He's inspecting our hull.
But we've had port inspection.
I don't like the looks of it.
Colonel, I did exactly as I was instructed.
They know something.
I didn't find a thing. You suppose they got rid of it somehow before they reached port?
You mean on another boat?
Or a sub, maybe.
No. We had that freighter under air surveillance within 2 minutes after your call. There's another explanation. Are you going to be someplace where I can get in touch with you later?
Oh, I'll be at my place. You got my number, haven't you?
All right, I'll call you. I might have an interesting assignment for you.
I had made my own investigation, but I was more puzzled than ever. The next morning, I was at the Coast Guard base on volunteer duty when I saw Commander Greer drive up.
All right, Commander.
Like that assignment that I mentioned. It's been okay. That is, if you still want to volunteer for it.
Just name it.
Remember all those talks we had about the possibility of someday you organizing an underwater flotilla for us?
Don't tell me it's finally gonna happen. You mean you're...
I mean we need that flotilla now.
Oh, that's great.
Now, it's an assignment that's tough. It could be dangerous. How many divers could you have ready for briefing?
Well, I only got about 5, maybe 6 in my regular flotilla that I'd consider, experienced enough for a job like this.
All right, you use your own discretion about that. Now, Mike, what I tell you now is for the moment strictly confidential.
Yeah?
This is going to be an underseas hunt, Mike, for that radioactive material. Notify your men to report here for briefing at 1700 hours. Tell them as little as possible, except that they have to volunteer. It's confidential and dangerous.
The deck of a Coast Guard cutter served as our briefing room. I explained our plan of search in detail.
Well, Mike, we still don't know exactly what we're looking for.
No, we don't know what it looks like, or what size it is. It could be very small. But we do know that it's something so radioactive that it could fry us if we get too close to it for too many seconds. That's why we'll be working with an underwater radiation detector like this one. It'll be our main protection.
Is there any chance of it exploding?
No, it's not an atomic bomb. My detector wouldn't have given me a reading if it were. But radiation and contamination are just as dangerous. Any more questions? We have got a couple of things working in our favor, though. One of them is water. It's a very good shield against radiation. And the other, of course, is this little gadget. Just be sure that you keep your eyes glued to it every second while you're down there, huh?
One more thing, gentlemen. Although this is the first underwater mission for a flotilla, there may never be a more important one. Whatever it is those people dropped, we've got to find it before they can get it ashore. More depends upon this than you can realize.
Well, I think we've covered about everything. Better start getting organized now. Looks like tomorrow's going to be a big day. Yeah, I'll check you out separately on this counter here, huh?
Commander Greer and I had chosen the area for the search based on what we knew of the freighter's course.
What's the matter, Commander? Something wrong?
No, I was curious about that boat over there, but I guess it's just one of those harbor fishing boats.
Looks like we're going to get a break. Nice day.
That Coast Guard cutter. It's got divers aboard. We're on our course.
Give orders to head back.
I'm giving the orders. We'll maintain our course. Notify me when we've reached the spot.
If those other divers see you down there, you won't...
I'll be one of them. In these outfits with the masks on, all divers look alike.
We had reached the sector charted for our first dive, the one that we thought most likely to hold our target. Our underwater search had begun. It was carefully planned and systematic. The cutter was set on a known course at a steady speed. With timed signals, they were dropping markers so that they would hit the bottom at 30-foot intervals. The markers were concrete hemispheres, striped for easy spotting. We had attached inflated buoys to the concrete blocks on long lines. These buoys would be our surface markers. When all the markers were overboard, we turned and retraced our course. This time, a diver jumped off and submerged next to each floating buoy. Each diver immediately swam down to his concrete marker on the bottom. I had to see that they followed the correct procedure after that. The plan was for each diver to tie the line that he carried to the marker and swim in a wide circular pattern. He had to watch and listen to the underwater radiation detector all the time. The lines were long enough so that the patterns would overlap. My flotilla members were good divers, but none of them had ever before had to conduct an underwater operation with such discipline and precision. Another diver was preparing to submerge. He was not part of our group. I was in command of the 1st Underwater Flotilla of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We had volunteered to find a tiny bit of dangerously radioactive hot cargo lying somewhere in acres of ocean bottom. We were so occupied with our work that we didn't notice the arrival of another diver, differently equipped. He studied our actions. We were nearing the end of our first diving period. In a few minutes, we'd complete the pattern of the first sector. Then we'd have to surface for rest and for a full set of tanks. Stan began to get a slightly higher reading on his meter from an object that he discovered in the bottom. He followed instructions and immediately inflated a marker buoy. When I saw the metal container that he'd found, I thought that our search was over. But I soon saw that the reading wasn't anywhere near high enough. I sent Stan right up, as our maximum safe time was over. My tank had only a few minutes of air left, too. I was going to surface with the others when I saw another diver. I could see immediately that he wasn't one of the flotilla, because he was carrying a long boat hook. Somehow I sensed what he was going to do with it. Unless I was very mistaken, he would lead me right to what we were searching for. I stayed as far behind as I could without losing him. When he reached his objective and I saw it, I knew that there was no mistake this time. It was a lead cylinder with a plate on it that might have held it to a hull. The diver was attaching a line to the container. He was using the boat hook to keep as far away from the radiation as possible. He started to tow away the cylinder. I knew I had almost no airlift. I also knew that I couldn't let this diver get away. I wasn't sure how far we were from the cutter, but I had to follow him. When the diver surfaced next to a boat with one end of the line, I figured that he'd soon start towing the cylinder away. I'd have to do something fast. The only thing that I could think of was to cut the line, but I couldn't get too close to the container for too long. It was hot, all right. My knife cut through the fiber strands, but the line had a wire core. The line was being hauled up. I tried to keep my distance from the cylinder.
I can't understand why he hasn't surfaced yet, sir. You'd better get down there with your boys. Come on, fellas. Let's find out what happened to Mike.
Start the engines. Let's get out of here.
Then I heard the motor starting. The propeller wasn't engaged yet. If I could wrap the line in it and get away in time, I might cut the line or stop the boat.
Must be fouled. I'm going down again. We can't get stuck here.
He saw me. I knew I had less than a minute of air left. If I didn't disarm him in that time, I was finished. Experienced diver. He knew all the tricks. I had already gone into my emergency air supply. Now it was running out. I knew that it was only a matter of seconds before I was helpless. Knife was gone. I took my last breath. He realized that I was out of air. He knew all that he had to do was to keep me from surfacing. I'd be dead in seconds. I was almost blacked out when my flotilla arrived and pulled the diver off me. Stan realized that I needed air. He quickly gave me some from his air hose. The diver was still struggling viciously, but he was no match for an underwater flotilla. We had loaded the hot cargo into a heavy lead container underwater. And that way, the water shielded us somewhat from the radiation. Now it was being carefully brought aboard. I knew that Commander Greer was anxious to have a description of the capsule.
It's a lead cylinder, about 3 feet long, about 7 inches in diameter, with a steel plate attached to it. I guess the whole thing was attached to the bottom of the boat with an electromagnet inside. When they wanted to get rid of it, they just switched off the current.
That's it, all right.
That's what?
Mike, when I gave you the go-ahead, I'd received a report that I couldn't discuss.
That figures.
Now, this is still strictly for you. But you see, intelligence knew all about that container. Everything except where and how. It's packed with radioactive cesium powder.
Cesium?
The idea was to have it handy to slip into the water supply at a crucial moment.
Boy, that could have wiped out hundreds of thousands of people.
Could have. Thanks.
Oh, you got nothing to worry about now, Commander. It's perfectly safe.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you all for volunteering and for the great job that you've done. Those men you captured have been turned over to the FBI. But there won't be any headlines about this incident, and your pictures won't be in the papers. You can't tell your family and your friends about it. So the only ones who will know are the bunch of us right here and Coast Guard headquarters in Washington. And you can be very sure that they'll know. And that the first thing that'll be said about our first underwater flotilla is, well done. Well done.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?